Jack and Annie find the magic tree house again. This time, it takes them to a castle in the Middle Ages. They explore nights, dungeons, and secret passages, and learn what it's like to live in a real castle long ago. Jack and Annie, the adventurous brother and sister from Frog Creek, Pennsylvania, return to the mysterious treehouse they discovered earlier. It's early morning, and the treehouse still sits high in the oak tree in the woods near their home. The treehouse is filled with books that can magically take them anywhere and anytime in history. Annie is excited and curious as always, while Jack is more cautious and likes to take notes about everything. Annie climbs up first, and Jack reluctantly follows. Inside, Annie finds a book about knights and castles. The cover shows a beautiful stone castle with flags flying from its towers. Annie looks at the picture and wishes she could see a real castle just like that. Before Jack can stop her, the wind begins to swirl, and the treehouse spins faster and faster. Suddenly, everything becomes still. When they look out the window, the woods of Frog Creek are gone. Instead, they see a green meadow, a distant forest, and a gigantic stone castle with a drawbridge over a moat. Jack can hardly believe his eyes. They are in medieval times. Annie is thrilled and wants to explore immediately, but Jack warns her to be careful. He brings along his notebook and the castle book to learn as much as he can. They climb down the rope ladder and walk across the foggy field toward the castle. Annie wants to cross the bridge, but Jack hesitates. The drawbridge begins to rise, and the castle gates close. If they want to go inside, they must hurry. Annie dashes ahead before Jack can stop her, and he has no choice but to follow. They sneak across the bridge and enter the castle courtyard just before the drawbridge shuts behind them. Inside, they see servants and guards moving around, carrying food and weapons. Jack and Annie hide behind barrels, trying not to be seen. Jack reads from his book that they are in the Middle Ages, about 500 years ago, and the castle belongs to a noble family. He learns that knights live by a code of honor and that castles are built for protection during wars. Annie, however, is more interested in exploring than reading. She spots a door leading into the castle and runs toward it. Jack sighs but follows her. They walk through cold stone hallways and climb up spiral staircases. They enter the great hall, filled with long wooden tables, banners, and a big fireplace. Annie imagines what it must be like during a feast with knights eating and laughing. Jack writes down his notes: Great hall, big room, feast for knights. They continue exploring until they reach an armory, where shiny suits of armor stand like silent guards. Annie wants to touch one, but Jack says it's dangerous. Still, Annie can't resist. She taps the metal, and the helmet crashes to the ground with a loud clang. Immediately, they hear footsteps and shouting. Guards are coming. Jack and Annie try to hide, but the guards find them. The children are captured and dragged before the castle's lord. The lord looks at them suspiciously. They're wearing strange clothes, and no one knows where they came from. Jack nervously explains they're lost travelers, but the lord doesn't believe them. He orders the guards to lock them in a dark, cold dungeon. The dungeon is damp and scary. Annie tries to stay brave, while Jack thinks hard about how to escape. He looks at his book and finds a picture of a secret passage used in castles. He realizes there might be one in the dungeon wall. He searches and finds a loose stone. Behind it is a narrow tunnel. The two children crawl through the dark passage, guided only by a little light from Jack's flashlight. After what feels like forever, they reach the other side, outside the castle walls near the moat. But there's one problem: the moat is filled with water and probably dangerous creatures. Annie spots a small boat tied near the wall. They climb in, and Jack uses a stick to push them across the moat. Suddenly, they hear a splash. Something big moves in the water. Jack paddles faster until they reach the other side safely. They climb out, soaked but relieved. Just then, Jack sees a knight on horseback riding across the drawbridge. The knight's armor shines in the moonlight. He looks strong and noble. Annie whispers that he might be one of the good knights. Maybe he's the one who can help them. Jack waves at him, but the knight doesn't speak. Silently, he rides closer, dismounts, and motions for them to follow. They're scared but decide to trust him. The knight leads them back across the bridge, through the courtyard, and up toward the castle gate. He doesn't say a word the entire time. When they reach the moat again, the knight points to the tree line in the distance, toward the direction of the treehouse. Jack and Annie realize he's helping them find their way home. The knight lifts his visor and smiles kindly before galloping away into the mist. Jack and Annie wave goodbye, feeling grateful. They hurry through the fields and woods until they see the familiar oak tree. They climb up the rope ladder, and Jack opens the castle book to the picture of Frog Creek Woods. He points to it and wishes to go home. The wind begins to spin the treehouse once again, faster and faster, until everything stops. When they look outside, they're back in their own time, with birds singing and the morning sun rising. Jack checks his watch. No time seems to have passed at all. Annie laughs and says she can't wait for their next adventure. Jack agrees but still wonders how the treehouse magic works, and who built it. Before leaving, he picks up a small object from the floor. It's a gold medallion with the letter M engraved on it. Jack stares at the medallion in wonder. "Who is M?" he asks. Annie just smiles mysteriously and says, "Maybe it's magic." They climb down the ladder, head home for breakfast, and promise to return soon. That's the end of The Night at Dawn, where Jack learns bravery through knowledge, Annie teaches the joy of curiosity, and both realize that courage isn't about fighting dragons or wearing armor. It's about facing the unknown together.